Hi, Tasha Lynn. How we doing tonight? I should have combed my hair before I put my hat back on. Oh, I should probably go get a haircut. That'd be probably the right way to do it. I don't know. Wow. This monitor right here up on the wall. I don't know if you can see that or not. That shines out into my backyard. That is a really low full moon we're looking at right there. I don't think tonight's supposed to be full moon, but I don't know what else I would have out there that would shine back like that. I don't see it by eye. That's kind of weird. All right, I need to throw a banner up here real quick. Yeah, I'll show that one. Back to comments. All right, so this file you see scrolling across the bottom of the screen, master list of lives, that's all the lives I could find with everybody I know that does lives. I mean, there was a lot of them that I don't follow, so they're not on it. Hi, Lynn, how we doing? There's a lot of them on there that I don't know about. Hey, making it home. How we doing, hon? And then the link behind that, that's my email address. So if anybody needs to contact me, like Lindy Oakley had to do for getting together and do some coffee mugs. I actually should probably go grab her mug and show it to you guys now that she's seen it. Yeah, give me just a second. I'll run in and grab it. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Thankfully, my office and my print shop are real close together. But yeah, this is the mug I did for Lindy Oakley. Or Lindy Oakley. I don't know why I keep saying Oakley. But she requested her logo to be on both sides. So naturally, I have to advertise the print shop somewhere on it. And I can't print on the bottom. So I did that right down the center line. But yeah, and Lynn, they are going into press. I probably will be starting on them first thing tomorrow morning with hopes of having them done either tomorrow or Monday and be able to get you your tracking information to follow them. I'm looking into different methods of shipping them because USPS right now is about $32 a case. Hi, Debbie. And I was told by one of my employees that I could probably do it a lot cheaper through FedEx. Unfortunately, the program we ship from FedEx included on it. It's just UPS and USPS. And I'll tell you, I can ship them in USPS for about $20 cheaper than I could do it at UPS. And they'd probably get there faster too. I've never been a real big fan of FedEx because I've had a lot of, back when I had my computer store, I had a lot of packages that were supposed to be getting delivered to the house to be configured for the people that were buying them. And FedEx was leaving them all over the neighborhood. Yeah, but it came back the minute I sat back down. I don't think it's the moon either. That camera actually shines down on my backyard from up here on the top porch, so I can't imagine the moon being that low. But it is kind of funny. The part that's moving around underneath is probably a cobweb. But I don't know what the camera is actually picking up out there in the yard. Maybe it's another part of the same cobweb seeing how it's not sitting still. That's a good possibility. Maybe when I got up, I just scared them. So I've been looking at what I need to do to my chicken coop and chicken run area in order to be able to get more chickens and keep them safe. And one of the things I've been told for my area was that I need fencing that's like a 1 inch by 2 inch welded wire, what they call hardware cloth. And all right. No, still there. Yeah, I think it's a cobweb blowing around the wind. I don't know. But yeah, I was told that I need to get 1 inch by 2 inch hardware cloth, welded wire, and not only run that around the edges of where my chicken coop area and run are, but also put it underneath it and actually wire tie the bottom to the sides and then attach the sides to the coop with pressure treated 2x4s, and then go in and reinforce the fencing behind the 2x4 with staples, not just regular everyday, uh, T30 staples or whatever, but an actual air staple gun that'll drive the staples into the 2x4. And that way, if anything comes up rush in that area, it'll hit it, but it won't do any damage to it. And I believe that's probably the right method that needs to happen. Fortunately, Leah, my girlfriend, she, for my birthday, which was on October 10th here, which was last Tuesday, week ago Tuesday, she gave me a $300 gift card for Lowe's. And the purpose of that gift card is to reinforce the whole chicken area because she liked the idea of having chickens as much as I did. I mean, you can't raise these birds for something. Yeah, it's probably crunk up that way because I'll tell you what, if it's blowing that hard out there, and it's been blowing pretty hard for the last couple of days, and that web's still there, yeah, they crunked that one up. They didn't just go in and weave it. Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about. When that's the monitor behind my left shoulder, stage left. Yeah. So I don't think the $300 is going to be enough to buy the pressure treated lumber that I need to do the fencing with or whatever, and the welded wire. But I'll make it work. But hi, Gypsy Trails. How we doing? I already have what's called a pond net. If you guys ever watch like Simple Life Reclaimed, that's kind of what they've got over top of their chicken coop. And I followed Gary's suit. I mean, when we put the big tall pole up in the center to make it so leaves and stuff actually get blown off the top of it or whatever, I went and found an empty 5 gallon bucket cover and we screwed that to the top of a 4x4. So there's no sharp edges on that netting. I do have to go out and clean it off. I was looking at it yesterday and we've got a really big oak tree that's not too far from the chicken coop. And when that thing starts dropping leaves, they don't have a chance to get blown off. They drop, it rains, and they stay right there. So I got to go out and clean that off. I'm just going to go out with a gas blower and send them back up into the air and hopefully dry them and they'll fly somewhere else. I got to use it out in the yard anyway. But yeah, it's because we have fisher cats in the area, and I don't know if you know about fisher cats. They're a protected animal. You're not allowed to shoot them, which is unfortunate for me. You're not allowed to trap them during some parts of the year in New York State, which is another bad part for me because you don't want to get them when they're in mating season, God forbid. And as far as I'm concerned, they don't belong in New York State. They kill things like squirrels, which okay, yeah, I can agree with that. Squirrels are nasty, but we have pet chipmunks, and we don't have very many left now because I think the Fisher cat got to a lot of them. We had a couple of really cool wild rabbits that were hanging out in the yard, and I mean I could walk up to within 2 feet of them, and they just stop eating, and look at me like, "What are you doing?" And they wouldn't run away or anything. They were actually getting quite friendly, but they also attack chickens and other birds and stuff. And I was told, you can get a big dog. Yeah, well, when we moved to Oklahoma, we will get a big dog. But here where we're at right now, running the businesses and stuff, we really don't have the time to take care of a pet. Okay, that's how we were able to go to Oklahoma. Our only pets were the 5 chickens we had when we went. Yeah, they just call them a fisher or fishers. The word cat got added to them for some reason. I don't know who added it to it or whatever, Debbie. But they're in the weasel family, and they can get to be, from what I've been reading, a female can get to be about 2 feet long, and then that counts the tail. And a male can get up to 3 feet long. And when you think of a weasel, you think of a little tiny critter that's maybe, I don't know, 16 inches long, maybe. But they're in that family, and they are very, very big. Oh, Gypsy Trails, I wish I could join you. I actually used to sleep in my RV here in New York in the wintertime. My camp was actually in the middle of a 14-acre field, and it got pretty cold in the wintertime. We had a wood stove set up, and I did have that was one of the first things I built on the property was a place to keep my firewood dry, and it was okay, except for it cost me a fortune to keep my driveway clean. I had a nephew coming over with his snowplow, and he was plowing it for me for a while. But he spent more time digging his truck out of the snowbank than he did actually plowing. Not that I cared. He didn't charge me for digging out the truck. But it actually got to the point where I got to have to call a guy with a bobcat and have him come in. And I wasn't home at the time he started, which was probably a really good thing because I always parked my car all the way at the top of the 14 acres. And it was a long driveway, about 400 feet or longer. But he started cleaning the driveway with his bobcat, and he ran it out of gas. So me, not knowing there was a bobcat parked in the driveway because I couldn't see it underneath the snowbanks, I just started pulling up the driveway, and lo and behold, oh, there's a bobcat. And he was still sitting on it. And he got off of it, and he was like, "Oh, dude." And I was like, "What?" And he says, "You got any gas cans?" And I was like, "Yeah, I got gas cans." He says, "Well, I ran out of gas." I'm looking at the snowbanks, and I'm going, "Yeah, that's a 4 foot climb to the top of the snowbank." And then saw drifted snow from there all the way to my shed to get a gas can. I was like, "Your house is closer in the car than my shed is walking through this field." And he was like, "Okay." Well, he says, "You know where my house is?" And I was like, "Yeah." He says, "Well, go to my house and tell my son you need a gas can. And then bring me back some diesel." All right, I can do that. So I drove to his house. I knocked on the door. His son answered. I said, "Hey, your dad ran out of fuel in my driveway over here, right in the middle of plowing it, and he's stuck. He needs a fuel can. If you give it to me, I'll go down to the gas station. I'll fill it up, and I'll take it back to him." He says, "Oh, crap." He says, "No, you're paying us to do the driveway." Well, anyway, we agreed on a price of $200 to do the driveway. And when he got all done with what he thought he was doing, he says to me, he says, "All right," he says, "I'm only going to charge you 125 for this one." And I was like, "No, I'm still paying you the full 200. So here's the deal. Start pushing all the snow all the way over to the fence line. So if the wind blows again, it doesn't drift into my driveway. It leaves it over there behind the snow pile." So he was there for, I'm going to say, almost 4 hours running the Bobcat. That snow was deep. I mean, you couldn't even see my car in it. And it was about 3 days later that the snowplow ran down the road. So I drove down to the road with a snow shovel, had to get out of the car and shovel a walking path to get out of my driveway, and then call a taxi cab to come pick me up. And I had to tell him, "Oh, look, I'm gonna take the snow shovel and I'm gonna stick it up in the bank. So when you see the place that has the snow shovel standing the wrong side up next to the road, that's where you're gonna be picking me up at. I'll be standing inside the snowbank to stay out of the wind until you get here." And he's like, "All right, yeah." They came and got me. They took me to work that morning. I got there a little late, but it wasn't too bad. And I got out of work that night and caught a ride with somebody else that was headed in my direction. And lo and behold, wouldn't you know, the wind had blown like crazy. So I had to get out of their car, climb up on the snowbank, retrieve the snow shovel, put my gloves and stuff back on, shoveled past back to my car and shoveled around my car because they didn't do the Bobcat all the way down close to the road. They left it back a little bit. And so, long story short, It took me almost an hour from the time I got home till the time I actually could put wood back into the wood stove and start warming the house back up again. That was a good year. Yeah, 60 inches total, unless it's a bad winter. Yeah, I agree with that. I remember back in the night, I think it was 90 storm winter, I think 93, I believe it was. We actually got so much snow that the plant that I work at, they shut it down. Well, they didn't. I was actually at the business showcase that year, and they said they were shutting all the roads down, so they had to shut the showcase down early. So I drove over to my boss's house, 91. Yeah, that's possible. I know it was after my son was born, and that was 90. But I went to my boss's house, and I said, "Hey, we got to go shut this plant down and send these guys home." And he's like, "We can't do that." And I said, "Dude, they're shutting all the roads down. Nobody's gonna be able to get to work in the morning." So we both left his house, two separate vehicles, and we drove back to the plant. We went in, told the guys to go home. We shut the place down. We were only there about an hour. And by the time we got out, we were up to about 4 foot of snow in some areas in our county. And when I got home, actually on the way home, I got pulled over by a sheriff's officer. I laughed about it because our sheriff cars were then white. I got pulled over by a sheriff's officer. And he said, "You know why I pulled you over?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, the roads are closed." And I said, "I know. I just left work. I'm headed home." He said, "Well, I couldn't see you." And I said, "Well, if it weren't for them red lights on top of your car, buddy, I wouldn't have seen you either." It was a pretty fun trip. But yeah, I got home, and actually, everybody here knows how big a 275-gallon fuel oil tank is. I had to shovel about a foot and a half above that because I had to send a guy in our trailer park where we're at to go get everybody some fuel oil because nobody had any. I mean, everybody was running low because the fuel oil truck didn't deliver when they were supposed to. So yeah, that was a pretty special one. I actually shoveled out my driveway enough to be able to pull my van in, and the top of my van was inside of a tunnel. That's how bad it got, and I created a walking path, and it was actually pretty funny. I mean, now the day that it happened, it wasn't. But after I went out and I got the fuel tank shoveled out and I helped those guys to go down, get their truck out of the parking lot, everybody loaded up their fuel cans, sent him down, got him all filled up with fuel oil. We met him at the bottom of the hill, and we had to push his truck with all that fuel oil in the back of it, all the way back up to the top of the hill. And we were up. There was three tiers to the trailer park we lived in, and we were on the top tier, and so was he. But he got back. I'm like, all right, cool. Now we got fuel oil. I poured the fuel oil into the tank, closed the tank back up. I'm like, everything here, that's great. I got enough fuel to get me through a day or two, and I can go get more when it starts melting down. Life goes on. I walk back around the trailer, shovel past to the front door to find out my keys are laying on the counter and the door was locked. And I was like, oh crap. Now what do I do? So I went next door to my neighbor's house, and they weren't home. But thankfully, they left their door unlocked. So I went into their house. And of course, back then we didn't have cell phones. So I went back into their house. I picked up the phone. I dialed his mother's house, and she's like, "Oh no, 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 that's not where they're at. They're over here, and I've got a number for them." I was like, "Well, if you can, just call them and tell them I'm going to be in their house taking care of their cats while they can't get home, and I might need to eat some food." And she's like, "Yeah, I can understand that." She says, "It's not a problem. Don't worry about replacing the food because I'm gonna make sure they have plenty when they get back." And so it was ironic, the best way I can word it. I stayed there. I took care of their cats. I was feeding the cats tuna fish because they didn't have any cat food in the house, and I was eating tuna fish, so we got along great. We all smelled the same on our breath. But yeah, it was a nasty storm that year. I think one of the worst I've ever, on my own as an adult, lived through. I do remember as a kid, my dad used to blow all the snow off of our driveway. And because he didn't like a big pile at the end of the driveway by the road, so he couldn't see down the road, he'd always blow it towards the house. and then he would blow it off into the yard. So the piles always stayed back by the house. And I remember one year when we were kids that I didn't know it. My brothers were out there and they tunneled inside of this big berm of snow, and they had candles burning in it to kind of create an ice filling or whatever so that they could keep warm and whatnot. Hey, horse around, how we doing? And I didn't know they were in there. I didn't know they'd done that. And I'm like, man, this snow's great, man. There's a lot of it. So I got out my sled out of the garage. I went out our back patio, set a ladder up on the back patio roof, climbed up on the roof, went up to the peak of the garage, looked at that big pile of snow and said, oh, yeah, this is going to be fun. I jumped in that sled. Hey, Paul, how we doing, buddy? I jumped into that sled. I come down off of that roof. I hit the top of that pile and I dropped about 20 feet to the ground. Landed on both of them, not knowing they were in there, and they didn't know what I was doing. So it was pretty ironic. They're like, "You ruined our fort," and I'm like, "Sorry, guys, I didn't know you were in there." And of course, both of them were older than I was, so I thought, "Well, geez, they should have done this before me." But yeah, it was like really fun. I don't remember how many snowmobiles that year we buried that we had to go back in spring and retrieve because you get caught up in the snow and you just couldn't go anywhere with them. We actually had one of my neighbors run himself over, which I thought was really funny. He was riding down one of the trails. Hey, back to good. How we doing, Rachel? He was riding down one of the trails, and the trail had drifted over, so he laid right into the throttle, and he was going to jump that drift. Well, as the skis went up the drift, the track started digging in, and it left the snowmobile almost straight up and down. So he shut the sled off. He got out. He kicked all the snow out from underneath the skis to try to get the front to drop down a little bit lower. And then he grabbed a hold of the bar in the front, the bumper bar or whatever. And he started pulling on that. And the snowmobile finally gave and it rolled right over top of him. So all you could see was a snowmobile sitting on the trail and a helmet. You couldn't tell there was a person attached to it. It was funnier than crap. We were like, yeah, leave it to Andy. He's the only guy in the neighborhood who can run himself over on a snowmobile. But yeah, it was fun. Yeah, so anyway, I do have a new game plan for what I want to do with the chickens. I don't know how soon it's going to be getting done. I've got a construction project going on in my upstairs hallway with new stairs and stuff coming in, and I've also started redoing the back porch out here so I can move my office out there, give a little bit better view than all the construction and everything that's in this room. But it'll happen, and I'm not in a big rush for it because to go out and buy any chickens right here right now would be kind of foolish because they wouldn't be old enough to lay eggs until spring, and it's going to be too cold for them to lay eggs anyways. So I'm kind of shooting for sometime in spring I'll go out and I'll tear all the old fencing down and I'll start it all over and get it going again. But I mean, it's just one of those things. I forget who said it, but when the worst possible things could happen is when you don't plan on any at all. And it's true. That's very true. Things happen, and it's like with this back patio. We're working on this back patio, or have been, and we've only worked one day a week ago. Last week we didn't work at all because it was wet and rainy, and my coworker wasn't feeling good. And then Helen Hardy, I didn't see you sneak in. And then this last week, we didn't work on it at all. So I told him, I says, yes, definitely Wednesday. It's supposed to start drying out. It's supposed to start warming up. We're going to try to get all the walls framed in. And as we're framing them, we're also going to be putting the Texture 111 boards on the outside to close it in. How far we get with that, I really don't know. I'd like to get my house painter up here and start painting the Texture 111 so the outside of it's already painted before we do it, because it's a heck of a drop off going to my backyard out here. The backyard actually is at an angle about like this, and the first porch starts off at about 4 or 5 feet off the ground. I climbed ladders to paint that when I wasn't supposed to be on ladders because I'm on disability, but I did it anyway. It needed to be done. But now you got another 10 feet above that, and then it goes up another 8 foot above that. And I'm like, yeah, I am not going up that way. We'll paint the boards first. We'll get them out of the way because I mean, we can put the windows in afterwards. That's not a big issue. But as long as we get the outside of the walls framed up, get the Texture 111 onto it, and have everything ready, we can at least close that area in, and that's my goal for it. Because I can go out there in the wintertime, throw a heater in there, and work on it from there. So that's where I kind of set with that, and that's what I told him. I ran into him today at Walmart, and he's like, "We're working Wednesday," and I says, "Yeah, plan Wednesday." But this is our goal for Wednesday, is just to get that back porch closed in, get it. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be winter tight enough so that I can go in and maybe throw a heater out there and start working on getting the insulation into the walls, and we can run wiring and stuff like that. We don't work on a very long schedule at all. Actually, I'm trying to limit my employees that do work on Wednesdays. There's three of them. I try to limit them to no more than 5 hours because the seed business at this time of year is very slow. It's typical. It's too late for people to be planting a fall garden. It's too early to be planting on next year's garden. So things slow down drastically. And my girlfriend also works for the business, and she's out there every day. When nobody else is here, she's out there working, and she's putting the orders together and stuff. And of course, she's on payroll too. I don't limit her hours. She limits her hours. She's got another job, so she just says, "Hey, you let these guys work 2 hours this week. I'm going to only work three. Or you go ahead and work 5 hours last week. I'm only going to work four." So she does well for that. I mean, I have to get paid. Above all else, I have to get paid because that's my only source of income right now. I don't know if I told you guys this or not, but I did get a letter from my boss of where I got injured on the job and started getting disability or workman's comp, and they terminated me because it's been over 2 years, and they canceled my health insurance, which I can understand that you're paying these premiums for somebody that's not working for you. You did it for over 2 years. I can understand that. You held a job open for me for over 2 years. I can understand that. But I was like, okay, well, what do I do now? It's not like I'm getting money from Workmen's Compensation Board. They shut me off long before the beginning of the year. So my only source of income is what I can get out of the seed house, and it's not a lot. And because I own the business, I cannot collect Social Security disability. Even though my lawyer told me to go ahead and file anyway, I was like, no, because I can't collect it. Why file? If you can't collect something, that'd be like my mom told me, well, look into WellCare. I called WellCare. WellCare is for people that are on Medicare. In order to be on Medicare, you got to be 65. I'm 59. So I can't get in any of those. Is it that way for out of your area, warmer states too? They don't order still? Yeah, actually, Tasha Lynn, it is that way. Unfortunately, I mean, we do a lot of business. And even for people in the warmer areas, by now they've already ordered their winter garden seeds, and they're not ready to start ordering their spring ones yet because they're heading into winter. And so they've already bought all the seeds they need for right now, and the orders will pick up again. Most of the time, it's around, I believe it'll be probably in the middle of September, or no, I'm sorry, middle of November and going forward. That's when everybody really starts putting in all their orders. In January and February, actually December, January, and February is when we do the most of our sales. And yeah, it's phenomenal for those 3 months, and it stays pretty good all summer long until we get to this point. Um, the last couple of years, it's been weird. I mean, the first year that we noticed a real big slowdown, it was like in the middle of July. And I told Leah, I says, fine, we just shut it down for 2 weeks. We go on vacation. I don't care. We can afford it. And so we both scheduled our vacations in July. The business slowed down. We got back. We picked up a few orders while we were gone, but nothing that much for you. Making it home. That website address you see right there on your screen, dollarseed.com. Just the beginning of that, just dollarseed.com. That's where we sell them from. So for that year, taking a vacation in July, I think we came back to like maybe 12, 14 orders. It wasn't much for a 2 week period of being gone. And then the following year, it moved to August. And I was like, hey, okay, well, whatever. We'll just change our vacation. We'll plan on August. You got plenty of time to put it in for. Hydroponics is fun making a home. I have dabbled in that and dabbled in it. I used to have a grow room in my old house, and I learned a lot of things with hydroponics that you don't find by growing in dirt. Hydroponics is actually kind of fun. Another really cool one that I want to play with sometime, but it's not going to be too weeks like Arkansas where it's warmer weather, would be aquaponics. I think aquaponics would really be the right way to do it because they got all that fish poo in the water, and that's a really good fertilizer. It's like rabbit poop. Um, but yeah, I mean, so this year it's been a little strange. We've been last, I'm gonna say 2 months. It's been really slow. We do have some days where we do a lot of sales, and we have other days where we don't do hardly any. We do sales every day, but it's not a consistent amount of sales. So it's really hard to plan the payroll of 4 people, 5 people, when you don't know how much income you're going to have for the whole week. And unfortunately, because we don't process our own credit cards, we do it through a processor. When the money comes into them, we get a notice saying, hey, today's sales was this much. Okay, great. But then it could be 4 days or 7 days later that our bank says, hey, this much was deposited in your account. And the numbers never match because the processor has to take out all of their fees first. I've tried my best to come up with an algorithm to say, okay, today's sales equaled this much. These are going to be the processing fees. This is how much it'll be. The report will be for, should be equal to the same of that minus, or not counting the process fees. So it'll be that report minus the process fees should be what gets deposited into the bank account. But the issue with that is that they don't deposit into the bank account every day. Actually, Mondays is when we get our big deposit. That would be like anything that happens after 5 o'clock Friday, all day Saturday, all day Sunday, up till I think it's 9 o'clock Monday morning, and I'm not even sure those days are correct, is when we get a big deposit put into our account. And I don't get any forewarning of what that's going to be, and I also don't get a breakdown of how many different payments made up that one big payment. So I've tried doing the math, and it's almost impossible. Someday I'll figure it out, or someday I'll just get a hold of the processors and say, hey, instead of sending me this report, send me this report. So I've got a total tally to play with rather than playing around with what goes into the bank and when and how long do you hold on to it before you send it to them and how long do they hold on to it. Hi, Mary Ann Bendler, how we doing? But yeah, it's one of them things that's really hard to control. You don't know. And that was another thing I just found out here just recently, and I'm very disappointed in, is that last year, because we were doing a lot of business, I mean, it was over $250,000 in sales. I hired a company called 1-800 Accountant. They had 3 jobs to do. One, they were my lawyers for making the business become an LLC, filing as an S corp. 2, they were to do all my bookkeeping, and 3 was to file my taxes. They asked me for more money before tax season ended this year, and I told them, you haven't done the job that I've hired you to do so far. So, I mean, you did do the LLC part. That was only $1,500, but it was almost $7,000 for the bookkeeping and doing the taxes, and they didn't do the taxes. Yeah, making a home. Yeah, I'm actually doing my best to do other things as well. Um, Actually, part of the print shop is shown on there too. Those T-shirts that you can buy from us, they get printed right here in my shop. We do our best with trying to do everything in house. Of course, we have suppliers that we order from. But yeah, I spend some days bottling the essential oils. I spend other days filling the soap rack up with new soap. And of course, we have to stretch wrap it and put our label on it and stuff, then take it out and set it aside until somebody buys it. I do all that stuff. I mean, that's why I get paid to work for the companies because I do all that. Plus, I do the payroll. Plus, I do all the ordering for outside stuff other than the seeds. My girlfriend took over the seed part of it. And actually, she took over the packaging part of it, other than the packaging labels, because she was out doing it and finding better deals than what I was doing it for. And some of the people we were buying from were like really trying to rape us because we were doing so much business with them. It's like you ordered 15, 20 pounds of seeds from them on a regular basis. And they kept raising their prices, or they'd only send us half of what we ordered, or sometimes they would say, "Oh, that's on back order." Well, if it was going to be on back order, you should have called me because I do a large volume of business with you. If it wasn't going to be available, you should have called me and said it wasn't going to be available so then I could reach out to somebody else and order it. And they don't do that. And they're almost like backstabbers. Yeah, I'll tell you, wholesale distribution, it's a tough business to be in. And we actually do wholesale. I mean, we haven't done a lot of it because I'm trying to get out of that part of it because that creates an issue for me where, okay, you want your company labels put on it, but I have to create your company label. So I have them here in house, which I don't mind. I mean, I got the print shop, but then I have to print all of your labels and I have to take them out to the seed house and tell my employees, this is a special order. These are the ones, and this is how they want it packaged or whatever. And one of them was doing what we called the boxed herb kit. Well, that's 10 packages of seed, 10 different packages of seed, a lot of seeds. I think it's 3,900 seeds in the kit. And then those have to go into a special box, and that box has to be sealed so nobody can open it up in the store and take any seed packages out of it. And then it gets its own special label made for the front of that box. So that's another label that has to be created. And then they go into another box. They get shipped to the customer. 10 of these boxes equals a case. And yeah, it gets intense. Actually, that's what got my print shop started, so I can't complain. I don't know anybody here pays attention to screen printing or things like that, but there's a guy out there named Lee Stewart. He's out of Canada, and I made friends with him. All right, Tasha, I'm not going to shut up. I made friends with him, and I said to him, I says, Lee, I says, I ordered one of your hats. It was an embroidered hat. I ordered one of your hats, and I'm very impressed with the box. Who did you get to print your box? And he sent me back this, 3-page email. It was long. And telling me that he doesn't hire anybody to print his boxes. He orders his boxes from the same company I do. He gets them into his house, and he opened up a real small area to do nothing but print boxes. And they're screen printed. And he's like, this is what I use for the screen printing. This is what I use for the emulsion. This is what I use for the ink. This is what I use. This is what I use. And I'm like, okay, I'm in. Yeah, Gypsy Trails. We don't do a lot of those 10 seed boxes right now, but it was a full herb kit and $75 a box, and that includes the shipping as well. And that's 10 boxes of 10 packages of seeds. So you get 1,000 packs of seeds, or 100 packs of seeds, I guess it was. But you get like 39,000 seeds. But yeah, so he sent me that email, and I was just like, wow, I got to do this. So I went out and I bought a simple one-station screen press unit. And I bought screens, and I bought the emulsions, and I bought the light unit to be able to say, okay, now I can make that as a printable screen. I bought a pressure washer. I built a washout station. I did all that stuff. And it wasn't cheap. It was expensive as crap. And the ink's not cheap. And I decided I wanted more than just that ink. I wanted different inks. But I started out with just dark green. I said, yeah, that's good. I hired another company to create a logo. I think I did that on Fiverr. That was only like a $5 logo. It was called Box Seeds, and it's just a picture of a box with hope out of the center of it, and it says box. And I started printing shirts or printing the boxes with it. Well, another guy reached out and he says, he says, if you can screen print a box, you can screen print a shirt. Yeah, but I don't want to screen print shirts that are one color only. I mean, if it was all, it's all Grady, that's how their shirts are done. Anybody that watches them, they show it as part of their intro into theirs. But not a lot of people want a one color logo printed on a shirt. I don't. I mean, I print stuff like this, I like full color. I like everything. And so I was like, all right, now I got to up the game then. So I went out and I bought a 4-station press, 4-screen, 4-station. And with that, I had to also go out and buy a flash unit. And that was like, you start adding these prices up, it's a lot. But then I also had to go out and buy this kit that has all the different colors of ink mixtures that you could possibly ever need to make every color that's available. And that was very expensive. I bought it. I was like, can't do it without it, gotta have it. So I bought it. And then with the seed business, I said, boy, we gotta print plastic. Well, that's a total separate ink. That's a solvent ink. And it's a nasty ink. You can't do that inside your house or anywhere because that has to be ventilated. I don't know if you played with any solvents, but that's like standing over an open can of naphtha with your nose closed up around it. It was terrible. And so Nana snuck in here. I didn't see Nana sneak in. The or was that Lynn talking to Tasha? But yeah, I mean that was a total different bear in the woods right there. I bought the ink, but I never played with it because the emulsions that I was buying wasn't working for it, so that didn't happen. But I got all that stuff, and then I decided I really don't like screen printing. For one, it takes an awful long time to get things set up. To register the screens perfectly every time, all the time is impossible. You really got to monkey around, and you need a machine much better than the one that I got. Hey, Josh, thanks for joining in, buddy. The machine that I bought doesn't have what they call micro adjustments on it, and everything's done manually, so it takes a very long time to get the registration set up. So if you're doing a 4-color print, you could probably spend 4 hours getting that print ready to do the first copy. And of course, you print once, then you put it under the flash, and then you print the next color, then or you go back and do the first color again or whatever. And you got to keep going back and forth to the flash. And it was just too much. And I was like, nah, I don't really like this style of printing. What else is available? And that's when I learned about the sublimation printing, and I was like, okay, a lot easier to get into, a lot least expensive. I mean, yeah, you have to have an Epson EcoTank printer. Well, big deal. They sell them all day long. Almost every office store has them. You have to go out and you have to buy special ink for it because you can't use the ink that comes with it because you're not printing on paper. You're printing on a chemical that's used for it, or it's called polycoat. Okay, that's fine. Well, you got to have things running at a certain temperature. Well, that's cool. I started out with just the most basic heat press and a toaster oven. Toaster oven. And then I found out the toaster ovens aren't really the best one. You want to get the one that has the air movement that goes around inside of it. And I was like, all right. So I went on Facebook Marketplace and I found one that wasn't too far away for a decent price, and I bought that. And I was doing coffee mugs and I was doing tumblers and all kinds of stuff like that. And doing it all in that oven. And things took a long time. And I got watching some other channel on it, and this lady says, no. I bought an Amazon press. What's taking you 5.5 minutes to do in that oven, I can knock out in 240 minutes on this press. And I'm like, well, that's a lot faster. And she says, but I don't have to have the silicone wraps to go around the mugs. And I'm like, oh, well, those are expensive. And I already ruined this up because I don't know what happened to them, but they melted. And the silicone, they're not supposed to melt. But yeah, that was a pretty interesting deal. But the tumblers still have to be done in the convection oven. That was the name I was looking for, convection. The tumblers still have to be done in that. I do have a press over here on the counter. It's right there behind me. That's made for doing tumblers. But the problem is when you buy it, it doesn't plug into the press that you already have for doing mugs. I redesigned the whole thing to make it a unit of its own. And I even bought another head for it, but it doesn't plug into that head. So now I have to go open up my other one, look at the way it's wired, and I come back in here, open this one up, wire this one to be the same, and then plug it in and find out what my temperatures and all that stuff is going to be. So I don't know. It'll be a play all. I mean, I do a lot of trial and error stuff. I mean, you have to. You have to. If you're trying to make stuff look perfect all the time, every time, you can't just have somebody run up to you and say, "This is how you do it," and it works every time. It doesn't. Every heat press is different. Every heat press is different. I actually have a video about this called "Finding Your Fudge Factor," and that's because heat presses are totally different. I have one heat press that sits in my shop that's a they call it a swing away, and the swing away press. If I set that for like say 300 degrees, it'll heat up to 400 degrees. So whatever I want for temperature, I have to multiply it times 0.75 to get it set to where I want it. And then for the one that sits right beside it, I have to multiply it times 0.92. And the problem I found is with polyester shirts is that we're normally pressing everything at 400 degrees for 1 minute. Well, that's became a major problem for me because polyester will actually scorch at anything over 300 degrees, but it takes 400 degrees supposedly for a certain length of time for the ink to leave the piece of paper, the special paper that you printed it on, and have it go into the fabric and forever be there. Well, the 400-degree part is not true. It is if you're doing signs. And it is if you're doing coffee mugs. But if you're doing t-shirts, and it depends on the brand of t-shirt. I didn't realize that either. It depends on the brand of t-shirt. Some t-shirts don't scorch at all, even though they're 100% polyester, like jersey shirts. Jersey shirts are really good shirts. But if you go out and buy just cheap shirts, I bought this shirt at Walmart. This shirt did not scorch at all. There's no square outline mark on it anywhere that shows where that heat press was down on it, and that was 400 degrees for the whole minute. So kudos to whoever made this shirt, except for they made a really bad. They don't do very well on their shirts because none of the seams are staying together. And hey, Backroads Homesteading, you snuck in. How you doing? Nana is here. All righty. Or Nana wasn't here. I'm sorry. Polyester, actually, it all depends making a home. Because I mean, if you try doing polyester on an embroidery machine, you better have some really good backing sheets to put behind it because that stuff stretches like crazy. But when you put it into like a heat press or something like that, it can it changes things. Yeah, I fully understand what you're saying about polyester burns. I do. I smoke. I used to wear polyester shirts that felt like silk. I actually thought they were silk. Somebody went to reach over me one day and flicked their ashes into the ashtray that was beside me, and they left me speckle marks all the way across my chest where it melted the shirt to my chest. So yeah, that's not fun. But the jersey polyester shirts, when you put them on, they feel just like a cotton shirt. They look like a cotton shirt. They wear like a cotton shirt. The advantage of doing the sublimation printing over the screen printing is screen printing after a while will crack or peel off. That's why I say when you got a screen printed shirt, always turn it inside out when you put it in the wash machine because the water goes into the shirt and pushes out to get the dirt off from it. And that pushes the ink into the shirt rather than out away from it. So it kind of stops the cracking, but they crack all the time anyway. And the same thing with like these guys. I actually own one, but these guys that go out and they do this direct to film printing, that's the same case. It doesn't last as long. I do HTV. It's only on special items that are like good for where you're going to be doing one-time use shirts, like for a family reunion type deal or something, where the people want the shirt, they wear it that day, and they'll probably never wear it again. The heat transfer vinyl is really good for projects like that. It's also pretty good for doing hats, though I don't like it. I prefer the embroidery. Which reminds me, I got to relearn how to use my embroidery machine. It's been so long, I forgot how to make it so it changes frames. I got it set for doing hats, and I need it to do a chest, and I can't remember how to make it work. And I'm like, I was going to do it for a friend of mine for some shirts for his band. I said, yeah, I could just embroider your name over your logo over here. Yeah, no, I forgot how to. And it hasn't really been that long. It's just I don't do it very often. But yeah, it's a fun process. I don't recommend anybody going wholehearted in it like I did. But again, for me, I did it as a business expense. I've got a very successful business on one hand that's saying, hey, we can do something different on the other. And because I've been turning everything that I was responsible for on that business over to my girlfriend and my employees, my empty hand over here had absolutely nothing to do. So I needed to find that balance point again to give me something to do. And so I started the print shop. I don't advertise it a lot. I do a lot of work with it, but I don't advertise it a lot. But I mean, on lives and talking to different people on here, like YouTube family. I talked to all of them. I went to the Oklahoma meetup for it, and I do introduce my businesses to places like that. But as far as every day, I don't have a sign out front that says, "Hey, you can go here and get stuff printed." I did. I took it down. Wasn't getting any business with since having a sign up, Plus, the town was giving me crap about it. But yeah, I do enough of it. And again, that's also why, okay, well, if it's starting to get to the point where you're not doing enough with the print shop and the seed business is doing really well, what if we try to expand that a little more? So we went into doing artisan soaps. Got a really good supplier for those. And then once the artisan soap started taking off, I was like, okay, well, wait a minute. What about people that want to make their own soaps? They're going to need to be able to have a source of this essential oil and stuff to put into their soap or their candles or whatever. And I actually looked into doing candles, but I don't want to do it. We do board butter, which is beeswax and mineral oil, 100% food grade mineral oil mixed together. And so I know what the cost of beeswax is. And if you make candles out of beeswax instead of soy wax, you better have your pocket purse handy because they are proud of that stuff too. But yeah, like my embroidery machine alone, it's a Ricoma 15 needle single head unit. That was $15,000 all on its own. I think that was the most expensive piece of equipment I bought for any of it. I have two different vinyl plotters. The first one I bought a long time ago for the wood shop. And then when we got here and I decided I wanted to kind of expand things a little bit, I bought a really big one. And the purpose of the big one was, well, I got vehicles of my own I want to letter, and other people who got vehicles they want to get lettered. And if I have the right machine and right vinyl, I can letter vehicles. I haven't lettered anybody's but my own. I've cut a lot of lettering and different things for people. One of the things that was going around for a while that they really tried to get me invested in was doing the in memory of window decals. I'll be honest, I've got the tools, I've got the equipment, and my mail carrier sign on the back of my truck. I hired somebody on Etsy to do that for me because I was like, yeah, I'm not going to sit there and play with the designing of it and get everything all set up just to do one little decal. So I paid somebody else to do it for me because it does take time. It all takes time, but it's fun. All right, guys. Well, I've been on here a lot longer than I planned it on. Yeah, I planned it. Actually 25 minutes over tonight. Wow. I'm not complaining. I got people like Josh that finally decides to pop in and say hello to me, and they got Gypsy Trails in here with me, and Backroads Homesteading, and Debbie Drock, and Lindy Oki, and wow, I don't know about Paul Honeyman. And I'm not seeing anybody else, but yeah, I mean, hey. Oh, sorry, Atasha Lynn. Apparently Nana was in here for a bit. 9 Acres Homestead. But yeah, we got a lot of people here. You're engraving a shotgun right now. Stay tuned. Oh, hold on. I'm going back to finish reading yours. Okay, you're engraving them. How are you engraving shotguns? Because yes, that is. Uh, Josh, I believe they are organic. I mean, everything we buy and sell are raised by the same sources, but they don't all list them as being that they're organic because you have to pay for the certification of every individual seed variety, and it's not just like the group of seeds. Like onions are all in one group. Every individual variety of them onions also has to be certified organic, and the cost of that certification is very expensive. LTP. Let's trade paint. Hey, Sean, how we doing, buddy? So yeah, they're all grown in the same fields and everything. They're just not all certified. They're all same suppliers. So back making it home. What are you using for engraving those shotguns? I'm very interested in that. Do you have like a fiber laser for doing that? CNC machine maybe, or how are you doing that? Because I have CNC machines. I actually make them. I don't have no fiber laser yet. I got 4 others. I don't need. Well, actually, I got 3 others. I just gave one away. I don't need any more yet. Yeah, we have onion seeds, Josh. We have a lot of onion seeds, and we have the garlic chives. No garlic itself. Although I probably could have got some this year. We had them growing up in our backyard over here, wild. I saved some to plant, but I don't think they're going to get to be of any size. Working and lurking. Well, Cuddly Texan, that's okay. We can all do the same thing all night long. I try not to work all night long. I normally start pretty darn early. Gypsy Trails, you know what? I've got some videos in the can right now that have been in there for a couple of weeks. I was getting ready to go in and post them, and something happened to the computer that I use. Overnights? Oh no, I don't do overnights. I do late nights, but I don't do overnights. I was gonna pull them off and put them into the software program I use, which is Filmora by Wondershare, and the computer that I use for it, the only one that has that program on it, really kept messing up with all these updates and not working properly and everything else. Yeah, that dozer toy was funny. That was a funny one. The then he had to give it to his grandson because Mama didn't want him playing with it no more. He was going to tear up the yard. But anyway, so I did the one with Lynn for Lynn to show her what the coffee mug looked like and stuff. And I finally got that program to work. I pulled that one off. I put it out as private, sent her the link, and then I pulled the card back out. And now that computer's giving me trouble again. So I think I'm going to just have to find a different computer to run that program on, I guess, because that's old. They only last for so long anymore. They aren't made the way they used to be. And with so many updates and everything else, it really slows them down. Yeah, but you know what, Cuddly? I don't think Tim ever dropped the blade either. All right, well, guys, I'm going to get off of here. It's been an hour. I'm glad to see everybody was able to join in tonight, and we've got 11 people watching. That's awesome. If you would please remember, if you enjoyed it, a little thumbs up won't hurt the algorithms here for YouTube. Well, thank you, Gypsy Charles. All right, so everybody have a good night. I'm going to cut out of here. It's time for an adult beverage, and I'm due for a cigarette. So you guys have a good night. I'll talk to you next time. Saturday nights, 8 o'clock. Yes, Eastern Central Time. Again, if you don't mind, give a thumbs up, share, subscribe, comment, whatever. Talk to y'all later. Bye.